the informed investor. Thanks to Century 21 agents, defying mediocrity and delivering extraordinary experiences.
9.5 minutes to 10. Warren McCarthy joins us now, CEO of Century 21, and it is spring on Sunday, the spring selling season. Hard to believe, Warren, it's upon us this quickly.
Yes, good evening, John. It's amazing, really, because I think we've had an early spring in terms of the auction clearance rates around the country. They've been extraordinary once again. Sydney going at 84.7% for their 500 auctions on the weekend, which is enormous. Melbourne 79.7%. And we're talking about Brisbane last week, and their clearance rate was around the 49%. Well, would you believe it, on the weekend they did 67.7% as the auction clearance rate for near 100 auctions that were put through in that particular cap city. So it's extraordinary, really. But you know what? It's born out of the shortage of stock, John.
I was about to say supply is being exceeded by demand. Pretty simple, isn't it?
Absolutely. You know, the same weekend last year, there was some 500 auctions more, so there's an indicator of what's going on there. Definitely a great time to be selling your property right now because of that distinct shortage. Yeah. And I think it's only going to continue through the spring, as you say. It's a good period of the year. Everyone thinks that it's going to be, you know, the best time of the year to sell. And you know what? I think it will be this time round. I'm expecting that the open house activity will lift. Certainly the auction clearances we think will continue to be strong. And you know what, with the finance being readily available by the banks, with the lowering of the APRA guidelines, I think there will be some most competitive rates going around. And, you know, with more stock to come to the market, which is traditional in the spring-summer period, I think buyers out there will have a lot to choose from and will be in a good bargaining position.
Okay. Now, interesting, because I've been to a few auctions where it's $1,000 increment, and you sort of think like you're almost pulling teeth going up by 1,000 at a time. I'm told that at Box Hill, at the weekend, a property went for $131,300 above reserve, but they were going in increments of $50 at the end. Is that right?
I did see that for a townhouse. Isn't that incredible? I think the auctioneer controlling that auction must have had amazing intuition to know that the larger level bids were exhausting, and they sought to get as much as possible from the buyers for that particular vendor they're acting for. And well done to both the agent and auctioneer in that respect. But
kept going with
down to $50, I think it's quite low. But hey, if they can squeeze every little cent out for their vendor that they're working for, then so be it.
All right, not if you're the buyer, I guess, you know. But nonetheless, you find the 50 down the back of the couch. What about a global recession? Now we keep talking about this and whether this trade war is going to have effect on the global economy. What do you reckon it would do in terms of the property market?
Well, history gives us some lessons, you know, and the effects of the recessions that we've had in the past, in around 2000 and 2008, we actually dodged the effects of the US recessions that happened then. The big change since then, however, John, is that interest rates have come back to record lows. So there's not as much room for the Reserve Bank to play with in terms of the monetary policy, and the rates can't really go down much further. So the other issue is that spending could become a real issue in the sense of keeping the economy buoyant, because wages growth remain at a low and the debt level per person is rather high. But there's a few things to remember. The last recession was in 1990, 1991. That was nearly 30 years ago. Yep. And back then the prices were reasonably flat and continued that way for the early part of the recession. But in the tail end of that recession time, they started to edge upwards. So there's a little bit of a telltale history lesson there for us to consider going forward.
Yeah, but I mean, we're talking about, you know, the recession, but we talked earlier, I mean, if demand is going to outstrip supply, and that looks like it's going to be the case for quite a while. We don't seem to be having the construction happening to meet the demand with the number of people we're increasing our population. That's going to be the case for a while, isn't it?
It'll keep the market underpinned with that strong demand, and I think that's a good thing. And I did read also earlier this evening that the US and China trade war might be on the improve, so we can only hope that that does occur so that we can avert any detriment to the economy at a global sense.
All right, so, well, happy spring. I guess, well, it technically starts on Sunday, but there are auctions these days. Are there many auctions on a Sunday?
Well, not a lot. Most traditional auctions are done on a Saturday, but not to say it can't be done on a Sunday, of course.
Yep. All right, Warren, great to talk to you. Thank you. We'll talk next week.
Cheers.